President Trump's revised 10% global tariffs took hold today, despite his comments over the weekend that they would start at 15%. The president announced the new tariffs last week just after the Supreme Court ruled that most of the sweeping levies he's imposed under the emergency order were illegal. A White House official told CBS News the administration is working on a proclamation for the president to sign that would raise the tariff rate to 15%. There's now uncertainty among U.S. trading partners and businesses as they wait to see how U.S. import and export laws shake out. CBS News business contributor Javier David joins us now. He's also a business editor for the Dallas Morning News. So what are the next steps internally within the U.S. government when it comes to tariffs, and when do we think this rate is going to increase to 15%?
Yeah, look, you could argue that the Supreme Court gave the president an out for this policy that investors, businesses, and consumers never liked, but it certainly appears that he's intent on doubling down. So the short answer is he's tapping into this law, known as Section 122. It basically enables him to impose these levies, either 10 or 15%, we just don't know yet, for at least several months. So it's temporary, but it lets him fight to the last for the signature economic policy, even though it's the most lawful thing he could do would be to just ask Congress to enshrine them into law by voting on them. But that won't happen because there's just no political appetite to pass what is effectively a tax. So the longer the administration digs in its heels on this, the less certain the outlook becomes, the more companies are going to clamor for refunds, and consumers just will be kind of denied this relief that they need from the elevated prices that we keep seeing.
Won't businesses just wait 5 months then until that 150 days is up when he can no longer set this tariff rate at 15%? And also, what do we know about companies who are trying to claw back these refunds? FedEx is suing.
Yeah, look, I mean, in theory, and I've seen someone float this, they could allow these tariffs to expire and then just reimpose them for another 150 days ad infinitum. They feel like they're going to continue to do that. So there's a real question about how much authority he has, whether that's even legal. But in the meantime, you can be assured that the president really does insist on kind of continuing this fight that, again, the Supreme Court gave him an out on.
So the president is also poised to call for another tax cut tonight. Do we know what to expect?
Yeah, look, the tax cut is, ironically, he's going to pitch new taxes, corporate tax cuts, personal tax cuts. He's laying out plans to advance them using this budget reconciliation process in Congress. It's a way that parties can vote on policy along party lines without being filibustered with 60 votes that they need. But the irony here, look, is that the biggest tax hike and threat to affordability has come from these tariffs that he's imposed, and he refuses to walk away from. And were the president kind of were to lay down his sword on this, there would be a tax cut. That would be a tax cut in and of itself, because a lot of the price pressures we were seeing would normalize.
What are you hearing in terms of what people want to hear from the president tonight? Is there anything that can be said or done to assuage their concerns right now when they're buying groceries or, paying for their gas bill?
Yeah, I think, look, the question of affordability is the most central one. People still, survey after survey continues to show us that consumers are buying. The data shows that they're buying, but in fact, they're not happy about it. And a lot of the data continues to show that what consumers are doing, a lot of them are putting money on credit cards. They're continuing to sort of rob Peter to pay Paul. They want relief. Consumers just want clarity. Businesses want clarity. And in order to get that, everyone needs to stop talking about tariffs. They need to stop thinking about tariffs. And I think the government needs to lay out a very clear, concrete way. And we saw this last year. People weren't happy about tariffs, but they came to a realization that, okay, we can deal with it.
Yep.
Now we're back in this sort of uncertainty, and no one knows.
Sorry, we've got to go. Thank you so much, Javier David, and stay with CBS News for live coverage of the State of the Union. You're watching the Daily Report.